A very good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the FLO Startup Symposium. This symposium is the culmination of the work done by the FLO Startup Cell in the last 1 year and a platform to engage in meaningful dialogue with the stakeholders of the startup ecosystem in India. I am Archana Khosla-Berman, founder of Vertices Partners. I'm also the Programming and Collaborations Head of the FICCI FLO National Startup Cell. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our FLO past presidents, Presidium, governing body members, and members from the ecosystem joining us today. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Mrs. Ujjwala Singhania. Mrs. Singhania hails from the 4th generation of one of India's leading business families, the JK organization, and is the 38th national president of FICCI FLO organization. Mrs. Jayanti Dalmia, president-elect, FICCI FLO, has deep association with FLO ever since inception and has been a GB member since 2013 and is involved in a family business of the Dalmia Group from 1981. I would also like to welcome Dr. Aarti Gupta, the Chief Investment Officer, DBR Ventures, Angel Investor, and National Head, FLO Startup Cell. Aarti has also been the immediate past chairperson for FICCI FLO Kanpur. We are all very excited to have amongst us today our guest of honor, Mr. Amitabh Kant. Make in India, Startup India, Incredible India, God's own country, Atithi Devo Bhava. Who isn't familiar with these initiatives that come with world-class campaigns? Mr. Kant is the key person behind these contemporary progress concepts, without which the India growth story of today would not have been possible. Mr. Kant is the CEO of Niti Aayog, a public policy think tank of the Government of India. He is a member of the Indian Administrative Service, Kerala Cadre 1980 batch. He is also the recipient of several awards and recognitions. He has been featured as one of the most celebrated Indians. Mr. Kant was also listed as one of the world's 50 most influential people revolutionizing governance. And if that wasn't enough, Mr. Kant has also authored several books. He's very instrumental in the startup growth story of India and has also launched the first funding show, which serves as a platform for startups and SMEs to ideate and secure funds. A very warm welcome to you, sir. I would like to invite FICCI FLO's 38th National President, Mrs. Ujjwala Singhania, to give the welcome address.
Thank you. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. We have with us Shri Amitabh Kant, CEO of Niti Aayog. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. I would like to quote our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, at the inauguration of government flagship campaign, Startup India. We have a million problems, but at the same time, we have a billion mind. In this time of profound global challenge of pandemic crisis, startups have played a very crucial role in Indian economy. They have been critical in facilitating the shift towards digital education, health services, and many other sectors. The vision of the government, together with the VC presence and the strength of entrepreneurs in the country, is the reason the Indian economy is rapidly growing, giving a great foundation for Indian startup to thrive. India has over 61,400 startups recognized by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. 555 districts in India have at least one new startup, highlighting startups in India have grown remarkably. This shows that the development of the startup ecosystem is not restricted to metros, but also entire 2 and 3 districts. The International Finance Corporation found that companies with gender-balanced leadership teams have valuation increase up to 25% higher than those with non-diverse teams. The Startup Cell is one of the initiatives of FLO. The purpose of this cell is to encourage and train women towards entrepreneurship and also trained to be investors and mentors to these startups. I'm sure this symposium will pave the way for more and more women-led startups to contribute towards the growth of the nation. Niti Aayog is an integral part of the startup success story of India, and we would like to work together in furthering the cause. Thank you, Dr. Aarti Gupta, the head of FLO Startup team, and everyone here and the team for putting the event together today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ujjwala ji. May I now invite Dr. Aarti Gupta to take us through the FLO Startup Cell initiative.
A very good evening, everyone. Respected Chief Guest, Mr. Amitabh Kant, National President, Mrs. Ujjwala Singhania, President-elect, Mrs. Jayanti Dalmia, GB members, colleagues, and members of the ecosystem. It gives me immense pleasure to present the work done by the FLO Startup Cell in the last year. India today is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. As of January 2021, we already had 83 unicorns valued at $278 billion. 14,000 startups have just sprung up last year, but only 10% of them are women. We have 10,000 angel investors, but only 1% of them are women. With a belief to shatter the glass ceiling and change the existing disparity, the FICCI FLO Startup Cell was initiated. FLO has always been a champion of women entrepreneurship. There have been a number of programs and initiatives under the able leadership of our past presidents where members have been trained and handheld through their entrepreneurial journey. And it's on the building blocks of the work done in the previous years that we continue to do the work at FLO Startup Cell. The vision for the year was to formalize and create an ecosystem of women founders and funders who we refer as Flowpreneurs and Flow Angels. Flowpreneurs are the entrepreneurs within our community, the women who have had the courage to jump into the path of entrepreneurship, who the cell has helped think, build, scale, pitch, and fund their ventures. We have had over 400 startups that are excelling and making a difference in the field of fashion, finance, sustainability, and more. We at FLO Startups also recognize the need for women to be on the other side of the table. And that is why we are working on a cohort of women investors who we call as Flow Angels. These Flow Angels are the experienced HNIs in our membership who, with the help of some training, have become investors, helping push the startup ecosystem in India to a whole new level. To help our Flowpreneurs, FLO established a FLO virtual incubator, which operates as the center of excellence and connects member startups to the relevant incubators with whom we have MOUs signed over the years, providing entrepreneurs a chance to accelerate their idea from ideation to investment. We also have a mentorship initiative through which we provide one-on-one mentoring to our entrepreneurs. The ecosystem today lacks certified women mentors. And as a part of our mentorship initiative launched last year, the cell has collaborated with Virginia Tech and has already identified, strengthened, and broadened the pool of certified women mentors to 60 plus. This is one of the largest pools of women certified mentors in the country who are well equipped to help budding and young entrepreneurs. A historic MOU this year was signed between FLO and Zoho Corporation, where eligible FLO startups have been given 1.86 lakh worth of credits each to purchase softwares necessary for their businesses. At FLO, we recognize the need for promoting and marketing our startups. And for that, the cell has launched FLO Startup Stories, a communication campaign that specifically showcases the Flowpreneurs and their respective businesses. In October 2021, the cell launched She Talks Business, a 16-week accelerator program. The program has been launched in collaboration with Plutus Business Advisory, Freshworks, Campus Connect, and other partners. The launch itself spanned over 2 days with 10 inspiring talks by eminent women who have already been through the journey themselves. As a part of the program, we received hundreds of applications, out of which 20 women entrepreneurs were shortlisted based on their caliber. Competing applicants came from diverse industry sectors including D2C, impact, sustainability, and EdTech. Once selected, each of the shortlists were assigned mentors based on each of their individual and startup requirements and underwent rigorous trainings by VCs, successful founders, and subject experts. A demo day was conducted where our very own FLO angels heard these startup pitches and judged them and shortlisted them to pitch for a final pitching session where 8 of these startups got a chance to raise funds from VCs and angel investors. I would also like to take a minute and bring to light the wonderful work done by all the chapters in their respective cities under this initiative. Each one of them have truly helped empower and push women entrepreneurship to a whole new height. I would also like to thank the entire team at national level, comprising of Archana Burman, who was heading programs and knowledge, Bindu Shastri, heading strategy and media, Priya Gautam, who is heading virtual incubator and mentoring, and Nehal Parekh, who is heading FLO Angels, and also all startup heads at the chapter levels and the chairpersons. Without the support and dedication of each one of you, we could not have achieved what we have managed today. I would also like to thank all past presidents for the various initiatives and programs where our members have been trained for this entrepreneurial journey, because we are able to create the kind of impact we are today with FLO Startup Cell because of the work done in the previous years. A big thank you to our president, Mrs. Ujjwala Singhania, for her vision, guidance, and support always. Having said that, we have only scratched the surface and have miles to go before we rest. At FLO, we continuously seek to collaborate with the government to enhance the impact we can make and achieve our common goal as fast as we can. For the time is now and the stage is set, so to speak. Building upon the work we've done, I would request our honorable chief guest, Mr. Kant, who has championed the cause of helping entrepreneurship in India, to help us as an organization with policy making that would favor more and more women to pursue entrepreneurship. We would also like to offer to collaborate with the government to utilize our existing pool of mentors for their initiative to jointly create a program that not only helps women entrepreneurship, but also create a cohesive platform to build and scale with cross-synergizing skill sets amongst themselves. We look forward to continuously building upon this initiative under the leadership of the incoming team. Without further ado, I would like to invite our chief guest for today, Mr. Kant, to please give your keynote address.
Ujjwala Singhania, Jayanti Dalmia, Dr. Aarti Gupta, Mrs. Burman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly delighted to be here. I was not aware of the phenomenal amount of work which FICCI's actually done. All of you have done. I was not aware of FLO Angels. I was not aware of your virtual incubator and the amount of fascinating work that you've done in the field of startups. So first, let me compliment all of you for this phenomenal leadership. It's really is tremendous leadership, because India needs women leaders, India needs women startups, India needs unique role models who can then set the examples for many others to follow. When we started the Startup India movement in 2016, and we'd not realized that there will be such a huge momentum, we've suddenly seen the huge rise of close to about 61,000 startups in India, and as Aarti just said, we have about 81 unicorns in India. Last year, during the COVID period, we saw 44 unicorns in India, which is unprecedented. We had more unicorns than the United States, United Kingdom, any other country. And this year, in just the first 3 months, we've had actually 11 unicorns. So what India is witnessing is a tremendous amount of energy, vitality, dynamism, which is actually not seen in established companies. So if you see the startups today, they are disrupting the world in all areas. It's not merely that they are disrupting in traditional areas of businesses, but they're doing a vast range of work in completely new and emerging areas of work, improving areas of learning outcomes, improving areas of health outcomes, improving areas of nutrition, improving areas of agriculture productivity. So a vast range of phenomenal work has been done by entrepreneurs, and many of them actually are demonstrating that India has unique problems. You know, we are a nation of 1.3 billion, so India's problems are unique. And if we are able to solve the problems of India, actually you're solving the problem of the next close to about 5 billion people who are moving from poverty to middle class in the next decade or so. So your market is not really the 1.3 billion people of India, but the vast segment of population which is going to move into middle class in the next coming years, and then you will be actually finding a solution for those people. And therefore there's a very vast market looking beyond India. And that is what many of our young startups are doing. They're disrupting the world in a manner which has never been seen before. So there's huge amount of disruption taking place in a vast range of areas. And I'm particularly delighted that many of them are women, because what has really happened in India is that we are adding an internet user every 3 seconds. We are getting a new mobile user every minute, and therefore the next, the market is really the next 500 million people of India, and many of them women, who are emerging as huge people. And this is the consumer segment. It's one, the consumer segment. Secondly, it's the user. Thirdly, it's almost 300 of these 500 million are actually 300 million are women. So imagine women are going to be the major consumers, women are going to be the major tech content creators, and women are going to be the ones who are going to transform lives in a very different way. And secondly, if India is to grow at high rates of 8 to 9% per annum, year after year for the next 3 decades or more, India cannot do this without women, because to my mind, if India is to grow, progress and advance, it's women who are going to lead the way, because they comprise 50% of your population. If we are not able to transform the lives of women, we'll never be able to transform India. And therefore it's the women entrepreneurship, it's the women's leadership, it's the women to, in a vast range of areas, from education to health to nutrition. It's all dependent on women actually. And that's why I'm particularly delighted that in a vast range of areas, women are doing very phenomenal and path-breaking work. You look at a content creator like Pratilipi, and Pratilipi actually is the content is created across 12 regional languages. It's all led by women, and it's all actually more than 65% of the women consumers are all women today. So Pratilipi is actually making a huge content in terms of storytelling, in terms of how to transform lives, all in regional languages, and vernacular languages is the key. Look at something like Mishu, Mishu is it's all about where the buyers and sellers, more than 70% are all women, and it's social transformation at its best towards that. Or look at how rural India is being transformed. There's a startup called Animal. Many people have not even heard of it. And Animal is run by a woman called Neeru Yadav. And what does she do? She actually provides to the rural entrepreneurs of India and to the agriculturalists of India. They've created a cattle trading platform. 20 million cattles a lady has enabled through a tech platform. I don't know whether you've heard of this, but Animal has enabled 20 million cattles to be traded for agriculturalists across India, and a woman has done it. Or look at iMerit, and iMerit is again, it's a machine learning, artificial intelligence based platform. Radha Basu, lady, who's used the power of data, who's used the power of artificial intelligence, who's used the power of machine learning to transform education, health, and many areas. So what you are seeing today is a huge transformation which many people, many women entrepreneurs have done. And it's not that many of you have heard about Nykaa, so I don't even want to talk about the story, because it's a widely written story about a women entrepreneur who's enabled, who's penetrated tier 2, tier 3 cities and actually made the women proud of their looks and actually transformed the looks of women in tier 2, tier 3 cities. But that's what Nykaa was able to do, and that's what Falguni Nair was able to do. But there are women entrepreneurs who have, I don't know whether you've heard of a startup called Imbibe, which has, where a women entrepreneur actually looked at learning outcomes in the state of Rajasthan. And she said that we'll find out how students are doing in maths, in physics, in chemistry, and those who are not doing well, we'll track their outcomes through artificial intelligence and then provide additional classes and then transform their lives. And that is what a women startup has done, transforming educational outcomes in Rajasthan through the startup called Imbibe. So you have range of stories coming out of women entrepreneurs. But I think what you need is many more role models. You need many more women entrepreneurs, because women are really the tech consumers. You need women who are going to transform lives, not merely of women but of men. And to my mind, as I've always believed, that women are really the transforming, I studied in St. Stephen's College in Delhi, and it was an all-male bastion. At that time, there were no girls in that college. So my class had about, we had 2 sections of economics, honors, and there were 100 students, all male. By the time, I was passing out of college, it had gone co-ed. And by the time my daughter went to St. Stephen's to study the same subject, in her class, 78% of the students were all girls. So boys were finding it very difficult. But last year I'd gone to St. Stephen's College, and the principal told me that actually in the economics honors, almost close to 90% of the students were all girls. They had totally outsmarted boys. So, St. Stephen's has become an all-girls college instead of being a male's bastion anymore. So, the then principal of St. Stephen's College, Valsan Tampu, he said that actually if St. Stephen's has to remain a co-educational college, then you have to give 10% extra marks to boys. Otherwise there'll only be girls here. But I'd gone to Bangalore, and I went to Christ College, and there they had a vice chancellor who was telling me I could only see girls and girls and girls. So I said, isn't this a co-educational institution? He said, yes. And he said, we have only girls and girls, despite the fact that we give 10% extra marks to boys, And so in several southern cities, you find the girls doing much better than boys. And my view is that in the coming years, the startup movement of India will see many more entrepreneurs than the boys of India, simply because the girls are outskilling boys by miles today. I only wish that in the engineering institutions, the IITs and triple IITs, you have many more engineers and many more data scientists and many more artificial intelligence engineers who are girls today. Many of the bright and brilliant girls today are going abroad and studying in Wharton, Harvard, or Carnegie Mellon. They should all be here beating records in our triple IITs and IITs, and that's what we should really strive at, because then you will see a huge surge of innovation by women entrepreneurs in India. But I'm truly delighted that FICCI has done such enormous work. It's done such phenomenal work, and I really want to congratulate the FICCI women's team led by Ujjwala Singhania and Jayanti Dalmia on the excellent work which FICCI is doing. We in Niti Aayog have the Atal Innovation Mission, which supports startups. We've supported close to about 11,000 tinkering labs in schools. We provide robots, 3D printers, artificial intelligence to students from class 5 onwards. So our objective is really to disrupt the Indian education system. We've supported over 10,500 tinkering labs all over India, and we've seen the students really becoming innovative and inquisitive. We do their regular competitions, we have mentors, and we've supported close to about 100 incubation centers. We do a vast number of startup events, and we'll be very delighted to work in close partnership. I'll ask Mr. Chintan Vaishnav, Dr. Chintan Vaishnav, who's the director of Atal Innovation Mission. He's just come down from MIT to lead this. I'll be very happy to put him in touch with all of you so that he can work in partnership, and Atal Innovation Mission will be very delighted to work in partnership with all of you to take this Angel FLO and all your incubation center and assist you and support you in every possible way. We'll be very delighted to partner all of you. And anything that we in Niti Aayog or the government of India can do for you, anything that we can do to support you, anything that we can do to give it greater momentum, greater success, greater glory, and to encourage women entrepreneurship through the FICCI movement, we'll be delighted to do that. We'll be very happy. We are always available to you for any assistance and support that you require. We are always at your command. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you all the best.
Can we take a couple of questions from the audience? So if you can just raise your hands, and you can then unmute the mic in front of you. So it's been. Any questions from the audience? Come on. Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So just one small question. As it happens that a startup requires funding mostly in the first or the second year, and unfortunately that's when nobody wants to invest in them or mentor them, and that's actually the crucial period, the first 2 years, where they need all the mentoring and the funding. So most of the incubators or the angel funders, say, okay, once you reach these many number of customers, or once you have this much traction, then we are going to invest, and we don't invest less than, say, this much lakhs or this many crores. So I just a thought that, can we somewhere have a program where just a few lakhs can be allocated for women startups to help them in these crucial first 2 years in terms of funding, in terms of mentoring, because they require only few lakhs in that first 2 years actually.
Actually we'll be delighted to know that we run a women entrepreneurship platform which is all digital, and the women entrepreneurship platform actually So we run a women entrepreneurship platform, and it's all digital. It's not physical at all. And we put you in touch with a number of angel investors who are willing to support and fully do this. But let me also tell you that actually there's been a huge inflow of resources into India. India is one of those countries which has received a vast amount of funds into the startup movement in India. As long as your idea is good, people are willing to support. The number of venture funds, but more than that, what has happened in India is that a large number of family houses, a large number of investors, Indian investors have got into the startup movement, and all of them have actually done very well by investing in this. So any mentoring bit, we'll be very happy to support you. We have a vast number of mentors. I'll be very happy to support it myself, but Niti Aayog has a number of mentors through the Atal Innovation Mission who've done very well themselves. We'll be very happy to support you. and it'll be good to build some kind of an institutional relationship. And this women entrepreneurship platform, there's a lady officer called Anna Roy who runs it. She'll be very happy to assist and support you in this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Super. Thank you, Mr. Kant, for that insightful address. Sorry. Hi, please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So I am Pankhudi Sanidhya and I'm just a student. There's a very short question of mine. What were the hardships that you guys, Mrs. Dalmia, Mrs. Singhania, Mrs. Gupta and Mrs. Berman, you guys faced in your own personal lives and getting on these higher posts? Or were there any?
Pankri, we'll do this. The question right now is just for Mr. Kant, and we'll have a panel with women entrepreneurs later. Can we take the question then?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Super. Great. Any other hands which I'm missing? Great. Thank you, Mr. Kant, for that insightful address. I think we would love to take forward all the things you've mentioned. I've met Mr. Chintan and Dr. Chintan, and I'm going to take your offer forward and actually work with Atal Innovation Center for FLO. So thank you so much. I would now request our National President, Mrs. Ujjwala Singhania, to present and felicitate Dr. Amitabh Kant with a green certificate. So at FLO, we believe in honoring our guests by planting trees in their name. And we've planted 5 trees in your name, and you have a tracking number. And hopefully when you track them, you fondly remember this session on women entrepreneurship. Thank you. I would also like to take this opportunity and call upon the winner of our FLO Accelerator program. As mentioned before, we had shortlisted 20 startups for a 16-week training program and then had them pitch to VCs and angel investors for funding. And this one was selected as the winner of the program. So the winner is EcoCollab. And we have with us Anamika Garg, the founder of EcoCollab.
Sure.
EcoCollab was founded by architects Anamika Garg and Arundhati Seth as a platform to mainstream eco-friendly buildings and to simplify building sustainability for end users. These 2 girls are fabulous. I've been interacting with them for the last 16 weeks, and they're building something amazing. So huge congratulations to EcoCollab for self-sustaining, decentralized, and temporalized scalability. EcoCollab gets a $5,000 Amazon AWS gift card along with a trophy and green certificate. I would also like to call our partners in the event from Plutus Advisory and Campus Connect, Polisatya, to please come and receive a green certificate from Mr. Kant. Both these organizations have been very crucial with our accelerator program and have helped us with that. So thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful address. It was such a delight to have you over and hear your inspiring insights. And we really cherish everything you say. So thank you so much. It's time for our panel discussion, the next part of our program to begin. Can I invite Archana to take on the stage, please?
I think we'll start with the introduction of the panel in the meanwhile. Unstereotype, unbias, unlearn. There's a beautiful thought. Stereotypes are deeply ingrained in societies and cultures, and most of them can be devastating to holistic progress of the society. So here we are with the first panel for today, Unstereotyping Women in Business and Investing. Engaging entrepreneurs and investors and hearing both perspectives. A little brief about our panelists for the panel one. Our first panelist for the day is Ms. Shinjini Kumar. She is the co-founder of SALT. She worked with the RBI for 17 long years. Back in 2001, she also took a sabbatical when sabbaticals were fairly unheard of in India. She did this to study MA Public Policy from the University of Texas, Austin. After she left RBI in 2007, she worked for the likes of Bank of America, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Citibank, and was the CEO of Paytm Payments Bank. Now she is on to her latest project. She has co-founded SALT, which is a fintech startup in the space of women, money, and choices that seeks to bring back intuition in financial management. Shinjini, may I request you to come and please be seated on the dais. Our next panelist is an entrepreneur and an angel investor. All the ingredients to help make a difference, and what a rare profile. As a witness to more than 260 funding rounds, Ms. Shanti Mohan is the name startups need to know about if they're looking for funding. Co-founder and CEO of Let's Venture, Shanti has expertise in consumer internet, embedded technology, and enterprise development space. In her own words, the idea behind Let's Venture was to put out a marketplace which will create transparency, access, and make the process of discovery easy for founders and investors. Some of the startups that recently raised money through Let's Venture include Vastra App, Vernacular.ai, Plop, and Circle of Life. With all this work in the startup space, it comes as no surprise at all that she serves as a mentor for many startups as well. Shanti, may I request you to come and be seated on the dais, please. Making the world a healthier and happier place, one nut at a time. That is the motto behind the business venture of our next panelist, Ms. Dinika Bhatia. She's the founder and CEO of DRB Foods, India's most loved brand of premium nuts and dry fruits. A foodie and a fitness enthusiast in equal measures, Dinika set out to create Nutty Gritties to promote a healthy lifestyle. Her experience with entrepreneurship started while she was pursuing her business administration at University of Southern California, when Nutty Gritties was conceptualized at the entrepreneurship program and awarded as the best business plan of the class of 2009. Dinika, may I request you to come and be seated on the dais, please. Often counted amongst the most networked entrepreneurs of India, Deepshika is at the helm of making a global mark with her startup Speakin, Asia's largest network of business experts and thought leaders. One of the most respected women entrepreneurs in the region, Deepshika is the winner of 2021 Economic Times Most Promising Women Leaders, 2020 Google Digital Women Award in Leadership, 2020 Top 100 Women Entrepreneurs by Ministry of MSME Government of India, and 2019 and 2017 Asia Women Icon Award Singapore, which celebrates excellence in entrepreneurship. She's also a TEDx speaker and an author. Deepshika, may I please request you to come and be seated on the dais. And what a win for us. Just as promised, we have the perfect panelists for a very interesting topic. So without further ado, let me hand over the baton to Deepshika to lead the discussion with this power-packed panel. Over to you, Deepshika.
Am I audible? Okay, great. Hi, thank you so much, Archana. What a lovely panel indeed, and very good evening to everybody. Good evening? We're still on after Mr. Kant has left. So great, thank you so much. We are talking about unstereotyping women in business and investing. I think we can talk a lot about it. I think there's a lot of work that FICCI has done. Hats off to Mrs. Singhania and of course incoming Mrs. Dalmia and Aarti. A lot of work done. Efforts are on, but some exist, will exist. We will have to fight them and recover from them. And how do we do that? My name is Deepshika, and I think Archana did a wonderful job of introducing all of us. So let me just quickly jump into our first opening remark of the day on the topic, unstereotyping women. Let me start with Shanti. The red one. You just press the red button. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for having me here. I think my personal opinion is that, you know, the only way we can unstereotype women is by not having women panels. Really, I actually really believe that we have to be a lot more inclusive in how we look at getting integrated with the business environment. And I think the more we try to kind of constantly give the message that any panel, any event is run, you should try and find a woman panelist along with the rest of the men. I think that's when the real integration starts to happen, because it is very nice to be in a group of women founders and women investors, but as a business, when you go out, the customer doesn't know it that you're a woman founder, right? And the customer is the best judge for us to tell us whether we are building a good product, whether you're building a good company. And in my opinion, that's the best way to kind of unstereotype, is just go out there and do it. And I think all of us make mistakes, and it's fine. But you know, don't try to define yourself as a woman founder, or don't try to define yourself by your gender. And I think most of the very successful women people I have met, we don't remember that you're a woman when you're working, right? So I think that's the best way to begin the unstereotyping. Thank you so much.
Incidentally, Shanti, before we started, Danika and I were having exactly the same conversation. You're not a woman CEO, you're not a woman entrepreneur.
Yes.
Your challenges are exactly same as anyone else. So walk into a situation as an entrepreneur, as a CEO. Shinti, Danika, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about this, and you know, I mentioned that when I started my business, I entered as an entrepreneur, not as a female entrepreneur or a male entrepreneur. I was just passionate about what I wanted to do. I was just clear, and that clarity led to confidence. That confidence led to commitment. The commitment led to me wanting to build up my competency to build my business. And when I went to the customers, as you mentioned, you know, when you go to a customer, you don't go as a woman or a man. You go as a business person. And I went to those customers, and I talked about the vision of the business, which was actually to change the way that India consumes dry fruits. I mean, we all know that we've grown up eating dry fruits, and I wanted to change that and make it more inclusive in the snacking space. And we would talk about building the categories. You know, it would be a fresh change for them, that instead of someone coming from Khari Baoli and talking about 1 rupee, 2 rupee negotiation, someone's talking about actually building out a brand and a category in the FMCG space. So I thought being a woman was actually also an advantage, because I could operate empathetically without any inhibitions. I could carry my vulnerability on my sleeve. You know, the right side of the brain, women operate more from the right side. So the creative angle could come in, and it's ironic that women thought of changing the way that India consumes nuts as well. So, you know, as you mentioned, we're business people, we're entrepreneurs, and as long as we have what I call the 4 C's, clarity, confidence, competence, and commitment, it's the same stage for all of us.
Fantastic, Danika. So, Shindini, you're starting up with a fintech platform, true inclusion for women, leading up to what FICCI is also doing, and FICCI FLO has done extensive work across tier 2, tier 3 cities and beyond. Also, what Danika and I were talking, where we stand, perhaps we can talk about and, you know, creating such a simple solution that it's in your head, you know, it's just you. Is there far more than that outside of Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore?
Sorry,
Is my mic working?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
it's on.
great. So, okay, it's 5 p.m. We are sitting in a room with no windows, and I need to make this interesting. So, I'm going to take a position that will not agree with my panelists. So, that's the starting point. And I'll tell you why. I actually started out from where Denika is, because I was this a young girl who got into Reserve Bank of India, and I was posted in this Delhi office. I was 22 years old, and I was an officer. I used to go very often to the bank at 5 a.m. to send, lots of cash remittances. Those days, I mean, cash is still king, but it used to be super Maharaja then. So we used to send lots of, cash remittances to the entire North India, and I would go there, and practically every time I would be the only woman in that entire building. There'd be like hundreds of men working and doing everything. I never felt unsafe. I never felt vulnerable. I never, bureaucracy puts you into that position where you come with that power. And I was just this little, 22-year-old girl out of college. I knew nothing. And I actually, if anybody had just shouted at me, I would have started crying. But the fact of the matter was that nobody shouted at me, and I, managed fine. And I spent 17 years in RBI. In between, I went to the US to study because, I had studied English literature and journalism, and I used to always feel like I needed to understand more about money supply and all those fancy things. So I went, I studied, I came back. I always wanted to continue with the bureaucracy and, retire as deputy governor or whatever. That's what I was groomed for. I got bored. I get bored very fast. It took 17 years in RBI, but I finally hit that point, and I left. And I left with very little plan, but I just had one promise to myself: I will not get bored again. And so I've done very interesting things since then, and I can go on and on about that, but I wanted to address this point of when or why I started to bring the woman to work with me, because that's not how I grew up. I grew up with a mother who was a school principal in a small place in Bihar. She had supported her husband to go and study abroad. She had, she had always taught us that it doesn't matter if you're a woman, if you're having your periods, you must get up earlier, dress brighter, show up. If you're not feeling well, the adrenaline will take you through the day. Just show up. That's what I was brought up with. That's what I did in my career. I felt very strong. I felt very powerful. I walked into the private sector and at a senior position. All my private sector jobs have been, at the C-suite levels. And then I started to see younger women, and then I started to change my mind, and I started to realize why it was important to bring the woman to work with you. All of you are senior women. Is there anybody in this room who has not seen a woman crying in the washroom? You all seen it, right? Yeah. Not once, not twice, many times. First time I saw it, I was devastated. I had not seen it in Reserve Bank of India. I stepped out of Reserve Bank of India and I saw this, and it really puzzled me. I was fairly old by the time. I was close to 40. I was 40. And I was looking at these young women and I was wondering what is so stressful. And then I started to talk to people. I don't come from a large family. I didn't have young cousins, etc., to understand their lives. And I started realizing how hard it is for women to progress in their careers only and only because they are women. They are smart, they are dedicated, all your 4 C's are there, and yet it is not easy. And that's when it became important for me to bring the woman to work with me, to talk like a woman, and to step up and say, yes, you can do it. It's hard, but you can do it. So I just feel like now that I'm in entrepreneurship, and I'll tell you this because you're in, we talked about fundraising. I come with 30 years of experience in Indian financial services. There's not a thing in this country in banking and finance that I have not seen personally. And this is not to brag, this is just because I'm, this old woman. I have 2 co-founders, extremely bright women. One studied in Stanford, and she is India's first buy now, pay later founder. She's worked in Apple, she's worked in the Valley, she's done, you cannot find more credential. My other co-founder is IIM Ahmedabad graduate. She has worked in Goldman Sachs, she's worked in Citibank, she's worked in a startup in Singapore, and all very bright women, right? Lots of experience, everything that you can see. We start to build a company which is a women first, wealth first company, because women need to own wealth. Women need to have thing to do with their money. Okay, it's not just enough to make your money. It's enough to make it. It is important to make money decisions, and we realized that that wasn't happening. We also realized that a lot of the bias and discrimination that was in the conventional financial system is getting coded into the new tech. The fintech is no better than the old tech when it comes to gender. So we said we need to do something about it. I mean, it's not about entitlement. It's not about saying that just because we were who we were, we expected that people will come and start loading us with money. And frankly, we've not been unlucky in that respect. But I can tell you the kind of questions that people asked me, I was really very angry at times, because that's not the kind of question that they would have asked if there were 3 men wanting to build yet another company to distribute card to yet another small slice of population of this country.
So, Shinjini, let me just
Sorry.
pause you there
That
and
is
take. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is within you and it is outside of you. So let me bring in Dinika now here. Dinika, my question to you is, and like Shinjini was talking about, you know, what exists outside of us. You have operated in a heavily male-dominated industry. What were the challenges? What did you see? And what did you do different that helped you progress further?
Right. So, you know, as I mentioned in my opening remark, when I entered the industry, I didn't think that this was male dominated. It didn't even cross my mind. It wasn't something that bothered me. All I thought about was that, hey, so I started this 12 years ago, and that time the retail industry was just emerging in India. I was studying in California, which is the land of nuts, and we all would, you know, travel abroad and buy trail mixes and mixed nuts and bring them back to India. And while we were there, we would snack on nuts. And I was like, listen, retail is emerging. This is a great opportunity. People are starting to eat healthier. They're becoming aware. Let's do this. So it didn't bother that the industry is male dominated. And I mentioned, like, on the other hand, like, I got a lot of support from you know, the retail players. Walmart supported me in the first year in setting up my entire infrastructure and setting up the entire processes. They handheld me in the first year, you know, from the likes of that time Reliance, Big Bazaar, Aditya Birla. Everybody was so supportive, and till date, all my channel partners call up and ask me that, Dinika, category ko kaise grow karna hai? How do we, what new do we do? So, you know, it's just, again, the clarity and the confidence was something that they probably bought into. The challenges I faced would have been faced by any business, not just because I was a woman.
So fantastic. So it's more of being proactive, getting out there, addressing the challenges. Shanti, may I now come to you? So we've been talking about, you know, investment is a big part of money that we all talked about is a big part. So the stereotypes are there. I mean, the kind of function, I mean, erstwhile, you know, we had our roles at the reception, we had our, then we moved to HR, and then we moved to some of the other areas, but now we are everywhere, right? Then the second part of stereotyping that we see very often, at least as an entrepreneur, finance versus people. I mean, EQ versus IQ. You know, those are clear stereotypes that we still see. What have you seen? You've challenged these stereotypes at so many levels. And you were talking about being invested in some of the companies that Mr. Kant were talking about. Please share your experiences, Shanti.
So, you know, very interesting that, again, just like what Dinika said, I think when I started Let's Venture, I was not on a mission, honestly, right? It was a very simplistic goal to make the process of fundraise easy for both founders and investors. So it was not like, you know, I have to now go break stereotypes or I have to go prove anything, because I was a founder. I had already done a company and I had sold the company. I had worked in the US and I worked in India in a large corporate, and honestly I thought that I am done with everything I wanted to do. I have done a startup, I have worked in a large corporate, and now it's time to probably do something which I really want to do, right? And really the journey of Let's Venture has been very incidental, right? It is not like when I started Let's Venture I said I want to build this large platform which is going to become so you know, inclusive in how the startup ecosystem of India is today being built.
right? And really built the product more from a founder mindset, right? So I'm more of a product person, so more went into the market. I had a lot of founder friends who were struggling to raise funding. They would come to me, and I would actually make connections for them among the friends I knew, right? And I just thought that the process was not scalable. I could not be going and connecting one person to 5 people every time. That was one. And second is that when I spoke to a lot of founder friends, I said, what are your top 3 challenges? They said funding, funding, funding. So they said, if you can just get us capital, we'll figure the rest of it out, right? And then I actually realized when I went into the ecosystem is that the funding space was the big boys game.
Yes.
Like literally,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You would actually see these very successful people, right? And I had one very interesting incident which I thought might be very pertinent to this conversation. So we were at one of the demo days of a large corporate, and they were like the 5 tables in the front, and they had kept those tables for angel investors. So I had a seat on one of the tables, and I remember like the entire table, I think there were like 15 people, maybe there were 14 men there, right? Because this was 2013, right? And I went up there, and one of the guys says that, who are you representing? Like, whose admin are you? I'm like, okay, thank you for that, right? But literally that was a question which came to me, right? And then I sat on the table, but for me personally, right? And this is a very personal trait for me. I don't have fear for failure, right? And I don't care what people think or what people say, because I think everybody has a context when they pass a remark on you, right? Or everybody has a particular background and a reason why they think in a particular way. And I'm honestly not here to change the world, right? I don't have those kind of mission where I want to change every guy to think that every woman should become more financially independent. I think I will touch as many lives as I can, and I will keep it very simple for myself, because I feel the moment you get into those very like statements which are very high mission statements, it creates a lot of anxiety for you as a person, right? And I want to protect my space. I want to protect my well-being, and I want to protect my own health.
I
right?
think we should get a mentorship from Shanti on that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I'll just share one example, given that Shanti talked about it. You're absolutely right. It's not just a boys' club; it's a big boys' club.
Yes.
And I think I think you, ma'am, asked the question. You asked the question on the funding available. It's a pity, and I have faced that myself, that banking infrastructure, particularly in India, offers zilch support to women entrepreneurs, especially in the services sector. Most of the women are entering into services sectors, right? We are starting, or as again another stereotype, lifestyle businesses and all that. 5 साल हो गया, अभी तो आप कुछ तो side में कर रहे हो कि husband is making money, घर चल रहा है, having fun.
No, but even today, even like 2 weeks back, right, when we were in a strategy discussion, I think people say, why do you get very emotional when I tell you that other people have a perception about you? And I'm like, because I don't care, right? And that is not the context of a conversation when I'm trying to define big picture for Let's Venture. What other people think should not be brought into the room for a conversation. So, right? So I think it is there in every level of conversation. I think it is very much ingrained, and it is for you to say how much of that do you want to make an excuse of what you want to build in your own life, right? And how much of your own space do you want to protect, right? I think it is a very, very personal choice in how we want to build our lives, build our careers.
So I'll just say one last thing on that, is that I think there's a beautiful book called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And then there's a revision which came, Nice Girls Still Don't Get the Corner Office. Everybody should read it. And it says, this is a game. Business, investment, investor, running a company, it's a game. Yes. You should know the rules. There's no excuse to not know the rules. Just last example, just leading to what Shanti was saying. I went to Bangalore, you know, because Delhi में कोई invest करता नहीं है, तो Bangalore जाना पड़ता. So I went to Bangalore to meet and one of the topmost founders of a company who's also now an investor, and he looked at me. He's like, you know, between your bangles and your watch, this is all the money that you're asking for. Why do you need to raise money?
Wow.
And this happened like 3 months ago, huh? After 5 years of me running an institution.
Wow. Okay.
So we have to handle it. We have to play it. So yes, last remarks and then we move to the next.
Yeah, so
Yes.
just one. I completely believe you have to play the game, right?
Yes.
Because when I started building Let's Venture, and this was not a conscious choice, I just met my co-founder. He's from IIT Bombay. But when I actually went into the ecosystem, I suddenly realized there is this big thing about, oh, IIT guys and IIM people are going to get funded, right? And I said, okay, I have played the game. I have got my co-founder who is from IIT Bombay. So I'm actually fine because I'm not from an IIT. But I think you have to just go there, observe what's happening, and go position yourself to win.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? But don't
yes.
make that as an excuse why you can't win.
Absolutely. So position yourself, learn the game, play by and make your own rules along the way. So Shinjini, now a question for you. Women entrepreneurs, there were a lot of numbers that Dr. Gupta also spoke about, and then Mr. Kant. Women entrepreneurs, according to a study, made up merely 14% of the total number of entrepreneurs. This puts India at 52nd of the 57 countries in the index of women entrepreneurs. Long way to go. What could be some of the, or maybe let's talk about the 3 aspects which are holding us back?
So it's part of the larger issue, right? Like whether you look at workforce participation of women in India, that we are at the bottom. Part of this is the affluence effect that, you know, as societies become more affluent, you generally see women participation in workforce dropping, but then you see it coming back because originally people work for money and then they work for self-fulfillment, etc., etc. But somehow in India we seem to have bucked the trend. We went down, but we seem to be just going down continuously. And therefore it is a worrying factor, and both at workplaces. And I can tell you, because in City, it was one of the things that used to really bother us, because we did not have a slate of diverse leaders, and we kept trying to do, and we worked very hard to, you know, create that. And same with PwC, because all the organizations that I worked in did have at least that aspiration to close that gender gap. For many organizations, that's not even an agenda. It's just that what can we do? There aren't enough women. You talk to somebody who's having a panel with men only, they'll tell you what to do. There are no women CEOs of banks anymore. So that is of course always an option, that you can just keep stating that. But the fact is that these things require active intervention. So why are you here? Why are you doing the FLO Angels? Why are you doing the efforts that you're doing? Is because sometimes things are at a place where you will have to work hard to reverse the situation to make it work, right? And it's not that you will be able to do it in one generation. So it's not like, you know, you have to get British out of India, that you will lead a movement and it will happen. These things, societal change is always the slowest. It will always take time, and you don't want to burn out. You want to do it in a way that it will happen. So obviously that's a big problem. Now a subset of that problem is entrepreneurship, which is a little bit more complicated, because women in workplace is a problem, because, you know, the moment you have a child, typically that's the journey, right? You have a child, and then the story from every place is that we can afford to raise the child, we can afford to have you at home, so why are you going to work? So, and too many people fall for that. Many women come back, which is admirable. I know extremely successful women who have taken a break, come back and done extremely well, and I have a lot of respect for them. In entrepreneurship, the thing is that it requires much more than even that. Like in a workplace, like my mother used to say, the good thing is that every day you get ready and you go out, so you leave the house behind, so you at least can survive. Now in an entrepreneurship, that separation of space, that separation of personal life with business life is inherently not a part of the game. So that is far more complicated again,
especially in the early days, right? When you have not started making money. पैसा तो कमा नहीं रहे, घर पे भी नहीं है. ऐसा थोड़ी ना हो सकता.
Exactly. बच्चे को छोड़ के जाना.
Absolutely.
So it is hard. And also then access to capital, right?
So let me just bring Dinika here. I've been there, done that. I've got 2 kids after long story. So Dinika, you have done this very successfully. You personally have had a beautiful journey. Professionally, you've brought your organization thus far. What lessons or key takeaways that you would share with other women entrepreneurs that to carry over these biases or to ride over these biases?
Right. So very interesting. I'll just mention a little bit about the child story. I have a friend in the US who has 2 children under the age of 2, and 45 days after her second child, she went back to work, and that also in office. So I was so inspired, and I said that she just said that I just created an ecosystem around me that was supportive. And that gets me to the point that, so there's this quote by Daisaku Ikeda, who's a Japanese Buddhist leader. He says that the environment is essentially a reflection of you. So whatever you feel inside, you feel outside. So biases exist, 100% they exist. That's why we're having these conversations. And as Shanti mentioned, that the day that we're going to stop having events like this is when biases are over, because things that don't exist, we don't talk about. So we should celebrate those days. But just seeing stories, I mean, right now I have I see two sets of people around me. One is where, they're like, okay, bacha ho gaya, ghar pe raho, we can handle it, etc., etc. And the other said that they can afford everything in the world, but they choose to go back to work, and there is equal participation from both the husband and the wife. So, just tying in few things here together, that if you don't see the bias, you don't feel the bias, which is what I felt happened with me. It's like you wear something nice and you feel good, and you go out, you're gonna get complimented. You wear something nice, but you don't feel good in that same outfit, that's what you will get from the environment as well. So I keep coming back to the point that we must keep getting clarity, and it's just where one's self-worth comes from. Not necessary, okay, my self-worth came from one of my values, which was independence, and that might not be necessary for everybody. Someone's self-worth might actually come from being home and raising their children at home. So no disrespect for them as well. It's just about really gaining clarity of what works for you, and then just sticking by that.
Fantastic. Gaining clarity what works for you, but probably it's a little oversimplification, because we are a sum total of everything around us, right? Last observation, Shanti, and we move to the audience for the question.
I think just be kind to yourself. I think it's okay to not knowing what you want at a particular point, right? And then suddenly realizing that I want to go be an entrepreneur. Or a lot of people I see in my friend circle, they feel like yaar kuch bhi nahi kiya zindagi mein. I said that is not the way you should be looking at it, right? Because I think everybody contributes to building a family, right? And you have to be kind to yourself and to the choices you've made in your life.
Fantastic. So clarity, be kind to yourself. World will do the rest, but at least you be kind to yourself. And of course, the inclusion. Thank you very much, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Last question, one question, 2 questions, whatever Dr. Gupta permits. Yes, sir. Inclusive. Are you feeling outnumbered?
I'll just speak out loud. Yeah. So my question is that the pattern we see in our country, that girls are academically more successful than boys usually, but that doesn't necessarily translates into entrepreneurship environment we see around us, right? So how long will it take, like, the girls are brilliant and they are more brilliant than men, and like that's what we see in the colleges around us, but they are necessarily not out there in entrepreneurship as compared to men. So I mean, how long will it take us to be there, to just break this pattern and just translate that academic success more into entrepreneurial success as well?
I think because we deal with 2 different environments, where we are born and where we end up. So maybe that's one reason. Dinika, you want to
So
take
I
it?
just like to say that, the conditioning of a child happens till the age of 5, or max stretches till the age of 10. How you are with the child, it has to begin with day 1 or day 0 of the child that's been born. When there's a girl that's born and a boy that's born, it should be the same kind of celebration, the same kind of opportunities, the same kind of everything. So I've actually had examples where a girl was born and there was no celebrations. and a boy is born, and it's like, wow, the best thing that just happened to that family. So once that changes at the grassroots level, at the level of parenting, and at the level of providing equal opportunities, it's a conditioning that, okay, school mein acha karo, find a good boy, get married, and that's the end of it, right? And I feel like in my example, in my situation, I was given the equal opportunities that my cousin brother was given, which is why I feel like even though I faced some challenges in my personal space later on, I had the same conviction, confidence, and courage that my cousin brother would have. So I think that at that level, once you start imbibing, and then whatever the child wants to do, whether it's a girl or a boy, leave it to them.
So Shinjini,
Yeah,
yes.
I wanted to add this. So when we started building Salt, because we realized that the woman as a financial services consumer is almost invisible, because products are made for men, sold to men, so it's a cycle that has perpetuated. So we did almost 500 interviews, and we learned a lot. And in the process of, one of the things we learned is what Dinika is talking about. That you set boundaries around yourself very, very quickly. Everyone does it. But men's boundaries are further off, because even when you are a child, you are given a cycle. You are given a gilli danda to play with. You come home at 9 p.m. You get beaten, but you are still okay. But for women, it's a very slow and gradual process of setting those boundaries. So one of the things we discovered is that just talking about money was a big taboo, which we weren't prepared for, because we were talking to like very privileged girls, because we thought that was our most ready market. So we were talking to women that were in the age group of 20 to 40, upper class, living in cities, smartphones, and that population. But even in that population, that idea that this is where my boundaries are was very, very strong, because in their father's house they didn't talk about money, because it was not done. Like, it was the brother's prerogative. So the brother was given the money to go out and buy something, and the sister was told to do something else. And these were not families where they were not celebrating the birth of the daughter. They were sending their daughters to the same type of schools, but still this kind of thing is just part of their norm. And through this, and then when you go to your in-laws' place, then obviously it's not your space. So these boundaries continuously are around you, and breaking them is a process that you have to, like you're talking about it as a process of do it for yourself, be kind to yourself. And there are women like all of you sitting here who find a way to step out of it and do it. It's not that it's impossible. One of my favorite scenes is that Scarlett Johansson in Lucy, right? There's a point at which she says, at this point all resistance falls, and she just walks through a wall. And I feel like for women, that is how it works. It's in your mind. The day you want to break it, you'll walk through that wall and you will do it. But to get to that point is a combination of factors, which sometimes you have to be conscious about. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, ladies. What a lovely conversation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one question, please? Sorry. Yeah.
Should we have some panelists, sorry, waiting on for the next panel, but we'll call them again. This was not enough. Thank you so much for this enthralling session. Shinjini, Dinika, Shanti, you were all simply fabulous. And thank you for sharing your valuable insights. I love the spice on the dais happening, you know. Deepshika, you excellently maneuvered the conversation, bringing out the best in each. May I now invite Mrs. Ujjwala Singhania to present green certificates to the panelists. Start with Dinika. Yeah. Can I invite Shanti? उनको Zoom पे लगा देना जैसे मैं शुरू करूँगी अभी बस Shinjini. And finally, Deepshika, thank you for the wonderful moderation. Thank you. Without further ado, let me set the context for our next session. Our next session promises to be one for the books. India today is booming with startups, but very few of them move from ideation to growth and truly disrupt the sector they are in. There are a number of parameters which contribute to the success of a startup's vision. Yeah. Oh, yes. Let me say hello to the panelists who are already been waiting for us on Zoom for the last 5 minutes. Hi Vinayak, hi Nitin, hi Kaushik. Apologies for this delay. So if I could request the audience so that we can quickly begin this second panel as well. Again, there are a number of parameters which contribute to the success of a startup, the vision of a founder being the primary determinant. Today we have the opportunity to learn from the very best. So without further delay, let me introduce you our fabulous next set of panelists. The topic is transition from startup to growth, learnings and insights. Our first panelist is Nitin Kamath, the founder of Zerodha. He bootstrapped and founded Zerodha in 2010 to overcome the hurdles he faced during his decade-long stint as a trader. Today, Zerodha has changed the landscape of the Indian broking industry. He was named one of the top 10 businessmen to watch out for in 2016 in India by the Economic Times for pioneering and scaling discount broking in India. Playing basketball is his zen. Welcome, Nitin. Our second panelist is Kaushik Mukherjee, co-founder and CEO of Sugar Cosmetics. Kaushik is the co-founder and CEO of Sugar Cosmetics, India's fastest growing beauty brand, which has clocked over 500 crores in annualized sales within 6 years of launch, with a distribution network of 35,000 plus branded retail outlets in more than 500 cities. Wow. He's a TEDx speaker and an alumni of BITS Pilani and IIM Ahmedabad, and is also an Ironman triathlete and marathoner. Welcome, Kaushik.
Thank you.
Our moderator for today is Vinayak Burman, who's the founder and managing partner at Vertices Partners, one of the fastest growing boutique law firms. In the private equity and venture capital field, he is recognized as one of the top lawyers of the country and the go-to advisor for founders and investors alike. He's been recognized as Time's 100 most influential personalities of 2021, as well as Forbes Legal Power List top managing partners of the country below 10 years of experience. I'm sure this is going to be an exciting conversation. Welcome, Vinayak, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Aarti. Kaushik, Nitin, welcome to the panel, and as always, it's a pleasure to have these conversations. I think let's broad base this the whole thought process behind having a quick chat for the benefit of all our audiences to make this very, very enthralling, make this hopefully to a certain extent educative as well, and outline our individual experiences and bring to the audience what can be key takeaways in terms of building the business, growing it, scaling it, and sustaining it, more importantly. So, I always have this personal belief that once you're an entrepreneur, you get a lifetime membership to this club called the Empathy Club. Suddenly all the things that we all took for granted in our day-to-day job lives, we realize that nothing is for granted. Everything is where you have to fight for it. Everything is where you have to create on your own. And in spite of that, I believe there's this whole concept of, that comes across and says, कि यार जब तक खुद का कुछ नहीं बनाएंगे ना, मजा नहीं आता. With all due respect, we all know becoming an entrepreneur sounds fabulous, sounds glamorous, sounds very, very cool, in today's terminology, because today you have this whole world of PR around. But 20 years ago, people would take 3 times, especially people like us who come from such humble backgrounds. We were all, looked as the black sheep of the family, saying that God knows what's got into you, or why are you leaving jobs and going across and doing this. So, Nitin, question for you: why entrepreneurship? Why would you not factor in a safety net of a paying job, or go to a secured pathway of going through step by step of the so-called, the transition of security of a salaried life, but leave all that aside and say, let me jump into this big black hole and see what I can get for myself. So what drove you to this, Nitin? Why?
No, firstly, thanks for having me on this. I think I'm slightly an outlier. I got pushed into the deep sea, when I was very young. So it essentially was, it wasn't like a planned thing that I need to do business. Business was really the only thing I could do. So I started trading the market. My folks were in the bank. My dad was a bank manager. My mom used to teach the Veena. And I'm really the first businessman in the family, in like the extended family. So I started trading the markets when I was 17, 18. And this was the late 90s. And by the time I was about to finish the college, I had borrowed money and I'd blown it up. So really, I was, I was in a debt, and I had to return it back. So I was doing multiple kind of jobs. I worked in a call center by the side for 3 years. And I did multi-level marketing. I used to trade the markets during daytime. So I was essentially trying to kind of, trading was a passion. I think I kind of figured that early, trading in markets, and then I was trying to put back a trading capital. I did this till until 2005. I met this gentleman who saw my account performance for 3-4 years, and he said, "No, why don't you do this for me?" I started a portfolio advisory business in 2005-6. So yeah, it's just been, like I said, I don't think I really had an option of a job. I did work in a call center, but I don't know if I was dreaming of building my career around a call center. I loved my selling job. I used to do telesales. I used to sell everything to the US for 3-4 years. I think I've learned most of my life skills in the call center. But I haven't let go of a good job, or I haven't let go of a pedigree education background to do business. I essentially, like I said, I was pushed into the sea, and then I somehow got lucky and I was able to swim across. So.
I wish I wish it was only luck, but I'm sure hearing your story, a lot of people say, why doesn't a little bit of that luck rub on us? So Kaushik, coming to you, my friend. So let's look at this thought, right? The ultimate essence of life in today's world for all of us, and I personally believe, I think the key survival skill is the jugaad. Like I remember when I was in college, and I remember the first time when Pune opened up with the McDonald's and Pizza Hut. I realized that if I actually managed to work there, I not only get $25 an hour, but I also get a free McBurger and a Pepsi, or I get a pizza and a Coke. So that gives me my lunch and the money to allow me to build something. In those days, I was building a bike. That's a different story. But for you, Kaushik, fabulous school, fabulous colleges, BITS Pilani, IIM, the works in terms of the Ivy League type of job. You had it all. You would go all the way up to being one of those bulge bracket fancy partners driving maybe a Bugatti Veyron today. But you said, you know what? Let me go and sell cosmetics. Now, I'm sure there was a lot of hue and cry. But why this? And I know personally your story, of course, and I relate so much to it. But you built perhaps the third most successful cosmetic brand in the country today. Why did you decide to say that I'm okay to take this punt, where most people would say that this is a straightway jacket into an 8-figure salary? What on earth am I doing being an entrepreneur? What was it like? What was that essence of jugaad in your life?
Thanks, Vinay, for teeing this up, and for FICCI FLO for having us. I know very few people who've straight up realized growing up that they wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think it starts with, we get shaped by what we see, what we read. I remember while growing up, when you read stories of Phil Knight, Richard Branson, you suddenly start, it seems very magical, right? That, okay, even they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. So maybe you can also build things. And I think the first time you try building something is just to see whether you're cut out for it. And it's very common that the first thing you start, it's like the first relationship you have doesn't materialize beyond a point. So the first startup doesn't take you very far. And that's when you realize that, okay, either you realize that this is not for you, or you realize that, okay, now I have a chip on my shoulder and I have to try something else again to prove that I can build something. So, which I'm not necessarily saying is the right way to look at it, but you know my story. I mean, a lot of it was because when you try something and you fail once, it is okay to fail, but you try to give yourself one more chance to say, okay, maybe I'll correct a few things that I did wrong. So yes, there was a lot of hue and cry, mostly from my family, who refused to believe that I went to business school to end up selling lipsticks. But I think eventually they have come around. So that was a driver in my case.
Excellent, excellent. So, continuing with you, Kaushik, I have this personal favorite. There's this song in our generation. A lot of people will relate to this movie called Anand, and there's a song which says "Zindagi ka safar hai ye kaisa safar, kabhi ye hasaye, kabhi ye rulaye." Right? I think that's a perfect semblance of life of us as entrepreneurs. We are always amidst the fire, amidst firefighting, and amidst the frying pan. And in spite of all of this, we will not have it any other way, right? So when we know that there's so many challenges, when we know that there's so many day-to-day issues, right from the team to the CAC, to the customer, to retention, to market share acquisition, to morale boosting, to everything that is there as entrepreneurs that we have to do. In spite of that, if for the benefit of the audience here to say, what have been those, and we are focusing a lot in terms of how you all have moved on from startup all the way to now, where there is a stage of growth, right? There is a stage of where you can proudly say that you've created that market space for yourself. What are those three? And I know it's very difficult to pinpoint to three, but I'm going to punish you for that, Kaushik. What are those three key ingredients that you think were responsible for the catalytic growth that Sugar went through? And do you see those three being constant, or do you see the need to constantly adopt and change as you scale up?
Vinayak, you ask very tough questions, firstly.
That's my job.
But, there was another panel about last year where somebody said that, if you're building in India, if you can stay in the game for 15 years, फिर आप unicorn बन जाओगे, because India is such a market full of opportunities. The challenge is to last for and build something for 15 years. I found that very interesting, and that's why when you talk about growth, I think growth थोड़ा सा byproduct है, because for us, I think you mentioned the highs and the lows. I think at the end of the day, it's the way you look at life, right? I genuinely believe that the highs and the highest high will outshine the lowest low if you keep building. And at least I'm fortunate to, that's how it's happened for me. And as you grow, you realize that you're not building this yourself, right? You're building for so many other people, with so many other people. And suddenly it's not about you anymore. I mean, even if you want to stop, you shouldn't stop. Foundation days, annual days, you see everybody coming in with their families. It's a very different feel altogether. So, I know you mentioned three reasons, but I think one is that for me, at least, the highs have outshone the lows. Second is I really think that more than growth, and I'm not the one who should be saying this because I have investors who have raised capital from, but who I hope don't see this. But more than growth, I really think if you stay in the game, right? Maybe we are living in fantastic times. And I think the last thing, I think the thing which makes it a little tough, you mentioned about the highs and the lows. One thing I've realized about entrepreneurship is that when you're smiling and laughing, you're probably doing it in a large group. When you're crying, you are probably crying alone or with a very close set of people because you conduct what you feel and what you emote. So there are yes. But I think net. I mean, that's what I would sum up. It's been staying in the game is I found the key to keeping the story going.
Well, I'm still glad you're giving the 15-year runway to this, man. In 15 years, I've seen people say that now we are serial entrepreneurs. We have built and sold 10 companies.
No, respect to them. Respect to them. I mean,
has reached the scale that where Nitin has reached. On that note, Nitin, transition to growth, right? The evergreen debate, growth vis-a-vis scale versus profitability. And how much do you try and balance two things together? Is it possible, etc.? You build a company of the size that you have, brother, without external financing, without having to go through a plethora of round of constant external capital, institutional capital, be responsible for the return on capital, be responsible for the pressure of building those exits as against managing stakeholder expectations and their expectations, etc. So in your view, how true is it the fact that you can actually build, grow, to scale and be profitable at the same time? Is it possible? Is it very specific to only certain businesses, Nitin? Or is there a code in your mind that, for the benefit of the audience, that people could try and say that there is a win-win formula? You can try and look at both. It's not just about acquiring market share, burning, scaling, and then hoping to God that somebody will go across and buy you out. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think you can really chase down growth and scale. As in, I think you need to be lucky to be at the right place, right time, right? And you can do a bunch of things to increase your chances of getting lucky, but I mean, see, the thing is, we are right now in the middle of excesses, right? As in, I mean, if you look back after 10 years, we'll be like, dude, what are all the VCs smoking, or we're gonna question it like that, right? As in, so can can a uh, can like is there a set way to build a large scale profitable sustainable business? I don't think so. I mean, this is a thing that I keep telling people in the office. I don't think if I had to start Zerodha today, there's a way for us to build Zerodha today the way we built, say, from 2010 onwards. I mean, because when we started the business in 2010, it was really like a horrible time for stockbrokers in India. I mean, and most of the existing brokers were diversifying, and we ended up starting a business around that time. In hindsight, it is like a perfect timing. But if you go back to 2010, it was probably a very stupid decision, right? As in, there's a very thin line between, being foolish and being passionate. As in, it works out, they kind of call you passionate. I mean, if it doesn't, you're called foolish. So I mean, so yeah, it's kind of worked out for us. Now, in terms of during the journey of Zerodha, I think the first 1, 2, 3 years, if someone had given us money, we would have probably raised it. But 2010 really was a really horrible time to go raise money for a broking business. The VC community itself wasn't very hot. And I didn't have any pedigree background. So I did meet a couple of VCs, but I don't think anyone took us seriously. By 2012-13, we were profitable. And by that time, I had kind of started interacting with companies which are funded by VCs to kind of get an idea of how VC-led businesses work, right? And for me, it was kind of clear that to kind of grow as every business needs a moat, right? You need an edge over your competition in some way. And now, if you don't really have an edge, you need to go raise, you need to have the deepest pockets, right? As in, so, you can go raise more than the next person, and then you can maybe outspend and grow, right? So yes, the question, that we had asked back in 2012-13 is, do we really want to get into this whole race of trying to raise more money than the next person? And we were like, maybe not, because one of the things I realized that in the financial services business, what is right for the investor is hardly ever right for the customer, right? As in, and so, if we had raised a lot of money, we would have had to keep the investor ahead of the customer, right? If we had done that, then we would have, see, today, I don't know if you know this, so we are at 9 million customers and we haven't spent a single rupee on advertisement, right? So all of these 9 million customers have paid 200 to 500 rupees to open an account with us. So when someone asks me for CAC, I say it's negative. We actually make 200 rupees on a customer who onboards us, right? And this has happened because we've generally over the last 12 years always done what is right for the customer, right? And that was possible because I didn't have to worry about an investor, I didn't have to worry about growing at a X pace in terms of revenue or adding X number of users. Internally, not a single person on our team has any kind of targets. No revenue targets, no sales targets, none of that, because I believe these targets itself are flawed. I mean, I might, like I said, I might say stuff which you don't hear often, because I think these targets are this ever-ending, never-ending goalpost, right? I mean, you hit a target and then the goalpost moves further ahead, right? And then you're always chasing something it can't be chased down. And so one of the things that I'm most proud about is really the fact that we're in the business. So the top 100 people who joined us, most of them still work. Our tech team, maybe 1 or 2 have quit till date, right? And I mean, more than all the profits and valuation talk, really what I'm proud about is the fact that we've been able to keep the team together. And like what Kaushik was saying, I think if you stick around for long enough, the odds of getting lucky in India is quite high, and it's like, like as the other day I was listening to Warren Buffett, and the fact that, he actually became a billionaire at 50, and then it's just about sticking, the longer you can keep doing the right things, the higher the odds of getting lucky, I mean, so I generally look at, scale, growth, etc. more as, you need to do what is right, and if you're at the right place, right time, scale and growth can happen. I don't know if we can really go chase it down, so.
Makes sense. So now let me ask a common question to both of you, and I'll leave it to both of you who wants to take it first. But a subject which I think is very close to FLO as an organization DNA, close to my heart personally. And I'm sure to a great extent impacts both of you as well in some way or the other. So one thought process is, how different is it for you all to have a woman co-founder or a woman key member on your team? Kaushik, I know your co-founder is your spouse. And likewise, I can speak for myself. For me, my co-founder is also my spouse. And for us, it's never been the situation where it's trying to go across and outline the female entrepreneur versus the male entrepreneur. For us, it's always been about who fits that role better, who does that particular aspect better. It's about the capability and the caliber and the performance of that particular role. And I can proudly say that there are several roles where my co-founder does it far better than me. So is it, if I may say so, does gender actually have to play a role in terms of that particular performance that needs to be done? Or is it purely about how you have gone across and factored in what your specialists or what your verticals of your specialization is in your business? And is it even necessary to highlight the element to say that, when it comes to women, it has to be about empathy. When it comes to men, it has to be about bulldozing. Because I can tell you, my co-founder bulldozes like nobody else. So when it comes to that whole thought, I know there is this whole nuance, right? There's a norm and there's an aberration. You all are living it day to day. So Kaushik, have you felt in your journey of sugar, people looking at it in different lens with respect to when they talk to you or when they talk to Vinita? Or have you seen this curve changing now with people realizing that it is about being an entrepreneur, right? That's the core element. It's not about being a female entrepreneur or male entrepreneur. What's been your take on that?
So, Vinayak, I think we live in a world of stereotypes and they exist because people have biases. So it's one thing to hold it against them, but as long as you expect it, then you can at least choose who you decide to have a conversation with, who you bring onto your cap table, and who are the investors you want to work with. I think beyond men and women, we're individuals first. So as you said, there should be a skill set mapping first. For example, a lot of people are very surprised that in our company, marketing as a function reports to me. Finance as a function reports to Vinita. So it's very funny. We'd be in a investor pitch and talking, and suddenly they'll be asking me very intricate working capital cycle, questions and all. And I'll listen to them and say, yeah, I think Vinita should answer that. And I can see the confusion in the face. Now it's become a routine, so we laugh about it. But initially, it is strange. But that's why I think beyond role mapping, I think I'll tell you what matters. I think representation matters. Not because I think I need a female co-founder as opposed to any co-founder, not that. Because when you're building an organization, people want to see themselves in leadership positions. So when you have representation, not necessarily as a co-founder, at senior leadership in the company, I think that matters, because then you attract a lot of talent and individuals who feel that, okay, I'm working in an organization which promotes equality across without any set functions or roles. And I think there's value in that as you scale as an organization. So yeah, that would be my take on it. But Vinayak, I mean, I can tell you things are much better right now, because the voices on social media, on public forums like these, there's a balanced point of view these days. But 10 years back, it was very strange. I can tell you that when we wanted to raise our and this will be a little controversial, when we wanted to raise our seed round, one of the investors who wanted to come and said that, okay, where's Kaushik? And they're like, Kaushik's at present still with McKinsey. He's going to quit in the next 2 months and join full time. And they were like, okay, no, ask him to put in his papers first. We'll give the term sheet after that. So this is very, I can imagine the furor of something like that would have happened now. But yeah, we've seen all of that.
True. Nitin, any takes at your end?
Yeah. No, Seema and I, we were dating from my call center days. So we actually met each other in our call center. She had come to Bangalore to work as a cabin crew, and I was in my whatever phase of my life where I was, I was trying to make up some and put some food on table types. And so yeah, so she's kind of seen me through my worst times, and so when Zerodha started, she was working in Singapore Airlines, and she joined me in 2011-12, like a couple of years from when we started. And yeah, I mean, she's not really co-founder as such. I mean, she kind of helps out wherever she can. I think the bigger challenge for me was actually my younger brother. He's my co-founder. Yeah, I mean, we both, thankfully, we both like different things. Nikhil trades the market, so he's gone on to set up a hedge fund now. So he's been trading throughout, and he never interfered in the business, and I never interfered in the way he manages money, and so yeah, so that way, the family kind of, I think the bigger challenge was that, I mean, really, in terms of, because, brothers are very competitive generally, I mean, between husband and wife, so it's actually not as competitive as, it is between brothers, and so yeah, but yeah, but I agree on Kaushik. I think, you need women representation. That's something that we've tried hard. We've struggled to hire for people, like women on tech team. We've struggled to get women traders because we have a risk management team, like, and we give enough opportunities to everyone. We want, like, on our risk management team, some women. We want some women on our tech team. It's just that I think it's like, I think it's changing. I think in 5 years from now, it'll be a lot better because I can see the transition that's happening. And as and when I think more and more women leaders are right at the top, I think the ambitions, women will get a lot more ambitious about this. And so I think, the new SEBI chairman, Madhvi Purivich, I think she's the smartest person I've ever seen, as in terms of, in the entire capital markets. And now that she's right at the top of, the capital markets, I have a feeling, a lot more women would feel, a lot more ambitious to get there types, So yeah, so I mean, it's but it is, in the business of money, especially, it's a little more challenging to find women, but we're trying, internally we have women representing and, I mean, heading large teams. So hopefully, a few years from now, I can say that there are a lot more women leaders than what we have today at Zerodha.
Super. So now I'm gonna touch base on one very important point, which I think is a key ingredient.
Sorry, can you hear me? Sorry. Before, like, we're running short of time, but we would love if after this question we can take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Yeah, because
sure. We should take more than that, Aarti. So I'm gonna first place this question, and then after this we'll open it up for the forum. And super. This is the question that I will outline for both of you, which I personally believe a lot is a key element when you move from a startup stage to actually growth. And this is a philosophy, right? It's like the Murphy's law, Nitin and Nitin and Kaushik. It's like the construct. When you won the loan, sorry, it's always like we'll have our names and this bugger will have his brand outcasing in the fan so that the sugar just comes and hits. So don't
it's working. Please.
It's working, definitely. So coming back to the Murphy's law construct, right? When you need the loan, you don't get it. When you don't need the loan, the bank's chasing you. When you need the funds, the investors don't give a damn. When you don't need the funds, everyone's wanting a piece of you. Now, in this whole construct, there is an element of intangible capital. There's a tangible capital, which is a check. But then there's an intangible capital, which personally I believe is one of the most fundamental core ingredients for being able to springboard us to where we were. From my perspective, Nitin and Kaushik knows this. When we started out, when we decided to jump off and leave our bulge bracket roles in large bulge bracket firms and start Vertices 6 years ago, we were just 3 people. Today we are 70 people. Today we are doing, we are representing who's who. Every single founder that we know, they're the council. Kaushik, fortunately, is one whose council we are. But when we started out, It was more about always going across and chasing and trying to get that thought process. As against today, where it's an automatic, as against a push, it's a pull, which happens with respect to the gestation of the brand and elements. But then there is one part which a lot of us, especially in the services, and Nitin, you will appreciate this because you are more on the services side, the intangible capital of getting the right advisor, the right advisory board, the right director, who adds value beyond just the check, who adds value in terms of not just looking at the investor nominee director, but opening up a plethora of doors in terms of their experience, their knowledge, their influence, their empathy, their realization of situations. How important do you think is intangible capital for the benefit of our audience? Therefore, the question being, is it that we use the marriage philosophy, which is always about that it is about the right person and not the right time, right? So is it about getting the right person on your board? It is about getting the right identification of the person on your board to be able to allow you to grow to that level? Or is it about taking in that money at that point of time because the runway demands it? So how much of importance do you both give to the intangible capital, and how has that helped both of you to be able to grow or do that springboard in terms of where you are today? Both of you, and post that we can take some questions from the audience.
And I think Kaushik, you're better suited to answer this because.
No, happy to go, Nitin. So, Vinayak, I think there have been times when you just need the money because you need the money. I mean, and beggars can't be choosers. And if you're running out of capital and shutting down in 2 months, then you need the capital. But my experience has been that intangible capital comes into play when you need much more than capital. I mean, having an investor on board who in April 2020 says that, guys, we don't know how COVID's going to play out. All of our competitors are going to cut back. I suggest we don't cut back for at least 3 months, and so that if we open up in 3 months, we can start sprinting faster. So nobody could predict that one of our investors would back us like that. But I think there is a lot of merit in that, because it just shows that I think a large part of building, especially those who have raised funds for investors, is trying to prove to your shareholders that you're doing the best for the company. And when somebody on the board gives you this vote of confidence, it just takes a lot of pressure off your back. So yes, I would definitely add that value to intangible capital as you articulated it.
And Nitin, in your case, even if it's not investor, I know it will not come into play, but what about advisory board? Does that play a huge role?
Yeah, no, I mean, see, the thing is, this whole raise money while you can is a story I've been sold. I mean, I haven't actually gotten sold, but I've been told like a bunch of times, especially over the last 3-4 years, where like generally broking, fintech, etc., has gotten very hot. People have really put almost like blank checks on the table of sorts, and we've consciously stayed away because we run the business very frugally. I mean, our gross margins are over 70%. And I have like almost like a 10-year runway right now, right? So and so I there was no incremental use of the money. I mean, we are not doing any marketing and advertising or anything like that. So as I said, there's no CAC. I think in India, especially for businesses in the financial services space, your biggest cost really is CAC, and people are raising money really to go acquire a user. Right. And now, how are we able to acquire users without actually spending? And that's actually an intangible asset. It's essentially credibility built over the last 10, 12 years. Right now, does that come because of an advisor or a board of directors? I don't think so. I think it comes because of the way you deal with your customer, and you have to keep doing it, for many years. It doesn't happen. Like I said earlier, right? You can't really chase this down. You can't force yourself to this. You need to do what is right because it is right, and not because you expect customer acquisition cost to be lesser, right? Because as soon as you do something with the expectation, you're going to be disappointed, and if you're disappointed, you won't do that again, right? And you need to do it because it's right. And what has helped us set apart is really the fact that we have never done anything which isn't right for the customer, and we let go of revenues. Like, for example, this initiative at Zerodha right now is this platform called Nudge that we are building. Think of it, let me give an analogy.
I saw that.
Like, like say for example, right? I mean, you go on Amazon, right? Say a person who's earning 50,000 rupees decides to buy a 2 lakh rupee mobile phone on Amazon. Today, Amazon is going to lend you money to do it. But really, that's a really bad product for the customer. Can Amazon tell that, dude, you shouldn't be spending 2 lakhs on a mobile phone, go buy something with 30,000 rupees, right? Can you be a business like that? And if you can be a business like that, I don't think you really need to spend money on acquiring users, right? And today, I mean, I think generally we've been sold this whole dreams of unicorns and valuations, and everyone's chasing what is, what can get them there, right? I mean, from the VCs to everyone else, and I think as long as you are happy building what you are build. I mean, you're proud about what you're building. You think you're solving the problem of the user. I mean, if growth has to happen, if valuations has to happen, it'll happen. I mean, and I think it's about just doing what is right for the customer.
So I'll sign off with one personal example, and this is like an antithesis of advisory board. So when we started the firm, we also had some very interesting people as our advisory board. And when you start, right, when you're in the personal space of a 350 square foot office, you've invested your money because you can't afford in Nariman Point anything beyond 350 square foot. And the carpenter's banging at the background, trying to get some furniture work on done. And you have someone coming in with a nice 8-figure check saying, here, I'm going to buy you out on the first month of your starting up. And, 50% of whatever you own is ours. We'll come into that arrangement. It's very tempting, guys. So when you take it back to the advisor says, man, think of it. You just started, you have an 8-figure offer, go for it. And at that point of time, we took a gut call as founders to say that even though that perhaps is an amount which will take us the next 3 years to earn, we still don't want to short sell ourselves and take that path. Today, 6 years later, all of us as co-founders, when we started this, we turned and said that perhaps that was the best decision to refuse that check. So at times, the advisory board, what it's supposed to do, may not really go across and do the exact thing. So you have both aspects, right? You have the catalyst element, and at times you have the lead sinker element. So to sign off on this particular point with what Nitin said, it's about, for the audience's benefit, it's about what you believe will be the bespoke fit for yourself and your business. If you believe that is the right bit for your business and you have the passion to build it, to our, at least I can say from all three of our experiences, I'm sure both of them will talk about theirs, I'll talk about mine. Sky's the limit as long as you know that you're doing the right thing and you have the belief to keep building to where you are. So that's where we are. Aarti, I think we should take some questions from the audience now and try and see if this any queries that they may have or anything that they may want us to address through our experiences, so that this can be completely fruitful. And before we sign off on that, once again, Nitin, Kaushik, thank you so much. It's been wonderful as always. Aarti, over to you.
Sorry. Thank you, Vinayak, and thank you, Nitin, thank you, Kaushik, and thank you, Vinayak, for this fabulous discussion. We really missed each one of you here at the FICCI house, and we hope we can actually invite you in person the next time. But before I say further, I see a couple of people in the audience wanting to ask a question. So, Radhima?
Good evening. Can you hear me? I can.
Yeah.
Thank you for that extremely inspiring conversation. So,
Radhima, see in the front. The camera's here.
Yeah, okay. So, just had a question for both Nitin and Kaushik. Off the top of your head at this point of time, can you give us an instance of a momentous high point and low point during your entrepreneurial journey? Any of you can go first.
Yeah, so thanks, Ridhima. I mean, high point.
I'm sure there were many, but just any that you can think of at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of many low points. I mean, there's high points. I mean, I think I kind of forgotten what really is a high point. But low points generally, when we scaled, we first scaled in 2017-18. I mean, we scaled very fast, and when we did, I don't think our tech caught up with the scale. So 2017-18 is when we had a bunch of issue days. Where we were down as a platform for like 15-20 minutes, and we've grown the business leveraging social media, and social media is a double-edged sword. And I was brutally trolled, and my email. Usually when something like that happens, right, I get like a few emails calling me cheat con fraud, and it affects because you've built it with so much of love, and all this whole doing what is right for the customer, etc.
And did you
So
react or
yes,
respond, or did you?
no, I mean, I go to the edge of the balcony and then decide if I should jump down. I mean, yeah, no, I mean, of course, you know, you do get affected, but I guess, you know, that's really the challenge of being an entrepreneur, right? As in, kind of, you know, getting over that and just get up next day morning and say, you know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know?
Thank you for that.
Super. Kaushik, what about you? A high point and a low point?
I'll quickly chime in. I think my high point came very near to a low point. There was a time, you know, prepared for when things really start working, right? And there was one time when we didn't realize that our products had really started taking off. And there was there was a new bunch of products in Germany, and we couldn't import it because we didn't have the money. We had customers, we had supply, we didn't have money to free up the products, and at that time we were panicking. And one of our investors had actually extended a debt to us. Now, investors aren't in the business of giving loans, but these guys are actually giving us a loan just to free that stock to sell. And we were like, till now, it makes me happy that somebody took a call on us. I think the times have been low, like more slow. I think in the past, when maybe 4 or 5 years back, we tried to retain a few really treasured colleagues by offering them ESOPs, and they flat out just said that, you know, ye sab kya hai? This is not. They literally said that, you know, the ESOPs are not going to be worth it, and they walked out, and that sort of impacts the morale of the company. And even if you try to be brave about it, so yeah, that's ups and downs.
You know, if I have to add one thing to this, Aarti, one of the biggest learnings that we had as entrepreneurs was your highest point in your entrepreneurial journey thrives on your lowest point. So our philosophy was the most obvious is the least obvious. So when you think about things which are supposed to be most obvious, and you know, when we started this, there was a whole set of clients that we thought that were the most obvious. We had a whole set of team members that we thought were the most obvious. We had a whole set of, you know, credit line that we thought was most obvious. We were like, you know, these are all there. And the day we took the plunge, the most obvious clients disappeared. The most obvious team that they said they'll start with us disappeared. The most obvious people who said we'll support you with Gandhiji being there at the background disappeared. And that's when you realize that all the most obvious is the least obvious. And in spite of that, when you can go across and take the plunge and say that we can still build it, I think that's your biggest high. Because once you scrape the bottom, the only way to go up is high. So for us, that's been the biggest journey, you know, biggest learning for us in terms of our highs is that you are from the lowest end is where you gain your highest high.
Super. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, we have one of our panelists, Dinika, wanting to ask a question. Dinika? So Dinika, just Kaushik and Nitin and Vinayak. Dinika was on our previous panel out here. And over to you, Dinika.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for sharing such valuable insights.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Dinika.
Do you want to come?
Yes, now I think.
No, I think that was Aarti asking her to come to the dais.
Okay.
Come here.
Kaushik's got a fancy painting behind him.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, Nitin, you mentioned that you have a runway of 10 years. What really genuinely keeps you going? Because there are, of course, in one of the low points that each one of us entrepreneurs has is that, you know, why am I doing this when we have our low points? So what genuinely keeps you going?
Right. Thanks, Dinika. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not really capital markets, trading, investing is really, is my core competency. And this is something for the last 20 years almost, I've slept, eaten, and, and drank capital markets. So why all of this? I think, incrementally, because money today doesn't make any difference. I think I hit that point a few years back. So it's not the money driving it. It's really what we think is, if we can financialize broader India, we can get Indians to kind of move away from assets like gold, real estate, bank fixed deposit to backing entrepreneurs. I think in the longer run can help kind of India become a super economic power that it can, right? And today, really, that's something internally we track. While we don't have any targets as such, we're actively tracking how many new users are we converting from a bank fixed deposit to kind of investing in stocks, right? While, we are in the middle of excesses, tomorrow stock markets can crash and, some of these guys can lose money. But what I'm saying is you need people of the country to take risks, but because if people don't take risks, how does the country grow, right? And I think we need more Indians to be backing more Indian entrepreneurs. I mean, today we depend so much on foreign VC capital and PE money. So a lot of wealth creation today is happening outside India versus within India, right? I mean, what we all in the core team, we all think that more wealth creation should happen in India, and someone like us can actually facilitate that, and that's really what keeps us going.
Awesome. No, that's great.
On a lighter note, I'm glad, Nitin, you didn't say that what keeps you going is that 15-year life cycle that Kaushik mentioned, that 5 years ka runway abhi bhi baki hai.
Great.
But guys, right? He's got 10-year runway, so he's the Indian entrepreneur who wants to support the other Indian entrepreneurs. So go to him. Hum garib entrepreneur hai. Kaushik and I fall in the latter part. Garib entrepreneurs.
Great. Thank you. On that lighter note, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you so much, Nitin, Kaushik, and Vinayak for this fabulous session. Nitin, personally a huge fan of yours, and how you've built Zerodha as a bootstrap company. You're an inspiration to many. And I don't know if many in the audience know, I believe there are 2 lakh plus women traders on trading on Zerodha actively. So, kudos to you for this huge women empowerment platform you've built. So, Kaushik, you along with Vinita are a power couple and an inspiration to so many other couples that you can work together and be together as well. And you've managed to build this amazing company in such a crowded space. Sugar is a household name, and more so a first name basis for someone like Vinayak, who's forgotten your name instead and gone ahead and said Sugar. But thank you so much for this fabulous insights. And Vinayak,
I'm a good counsel. I give more importance to the company than to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Vinayak, for maneuvering this conversation so brilliantly and bringing out the best on this topic. We really appreciate it out here. So thank you to each one of you. Without further delay, can I invite our President-elect, Mrs. Jayanti Dalmia, to give the vote of thanks, please?
Good evening. It's my pleasure to give the vote of thanks today. What a fabulous event this was. They say that there will be more than 100 unicorns by the end of 2022. And I hope 50 of them are at least women. On behalf of FLO, I would like to extend a big thank you to our chief guest, Mr. Kant, for his fabulous insights, though he's not here. A huge thank you to our panelists, Shinjini, Dinika, Shanti, and Nitin and Kaushik, for your insights into how the startup ecosystem is today and what will it be its future. And thank you to you, Vinayak and Deepshika, for brilliantly moderating the conversation. Really enjoyed this session today. Thank you to the past presidents, GB members, guests, and members who have joined us today in this discussion. Let's keep the momentum on for this dialogue and ensure that together we bring about a meaningful change. Thank you so much, Aarti and Archana, for organizing this session. It was quite an eye-opener, and we hope to have many more. Thank you.
Yeah. Can we get the FLO members out here for a picture? Yeah. And we have tea outside, so please join us for tea. Or upstairs. So we have tea at the 3rd floor, so please join us for tea.